Welcome to the Kitchen Table, a show dedicated to helping you escape diet culture, gain trust with food, honor your body, and live a brighter life. Hello. Welcome back to the Kitchen Table. Happy Memorial Day. I hope you're enjoying the day and enjoyed the weekend. And on today's show, we're going to talk about the second pillar of the program that I'm launching on June 20th. The program is called The Workshop. The first pillar we talked about last Monday was embodied eating. This is my own spin on intuitive eating, which is core to my practice and my food philosophy. And so we talk about really getting into the nitty gritties in that first pillar of what it takes to find ourselves able to give us permission with food, eating any and all food so that we can heal our relationship with food and so that we can gain more respect for our bodies. That's all in the first pillar. Really hefty, getting into the nitty gritties of intuitive eating with a spin on embodiment. That's embodied eating. That's the first pillar. 2 months of this program are dedicated to healing our relationship with food. And wow, does that work continue after those 2 months? But we dedicate those 2 months to solely focus on embodied eating practices. And there are 2 workshops, one at the start of every month. So there's 2 workshops on embodied eating in the program. The third workshop in the third month is dedicated to strengthening our mind-body connection. So that's what we're going to be talking about on the show today, mind-body harmony. You might be thinking, why is this important? I've heard maybe, about the mind-body connection before, but what does that mean for me and my life? And I'll just share right now, I want to talk about something before I kind of dive into this topic, but mind-body harmony, the mind-body connection is way more important than we might realize. Because if there's a connection between the mind and the body, that also means there might be a disconnection between the two as well. And in this episode, I want to unpack what life is like disconnected from the mind and the body, and what life can be like when we're connected with the mind and body. There's an embodied state, which is that connection, and then there's the disembodied state, which is that disconnection. So I want to talk about the both of those things and really have you understand how strengthening that mind-body connection helps with embodied eating, kind of building that, building the connection between the mind and the body helps us feel into the body, the sensations of the body, gain more awareness of our bodies so that we can learn how to honor, respect, and feed and treat our bodies in a way that aligns with what we need on a regular basis. So our needs could be for sleep, our need could be for food, our need could be for rest, our need could be for a multitude of things. But when we strengthen that mind-body connection, those needs come to the surface. We're able to articulate them more to ourselves and to others so that we can then show up more fully, more authentically in the world because we know how to ask specifically for what we need. Yes, so that's what we're going to be talking about today, mind-body connection. It's the second pillar of the program that, again, I'm launching on June 20th. June 20th, the workshop comes out. And so every Monday from now till then, we'll talk about another pillar of the program. And I will have other participants of this program. I'm going to have various professionals that are coming in to conduct workshops within the program. And they're going to also hop on the podcast to share what you will learn about in the grander workshop program when you decide to enroll. So stay tuned for that. I could not be more excited. Before I dive into the mind-body harmony, the third month of the workshop, the second pillar of the program, before I dive into the importance of that, would you mind just taking a moment of silence with me to reflect on Memorial Day, the significance of this day, the significance of this long weekend, to think about those who have sacrificed their lives so that we can be free in this great country? There are people your and my age that have given their life so that we can be free. And I care deeply about this country, and I do not take it for granted. At Mass today, actually, we went to Mass with my grandparents, and my grandpa served in the Army. And at the end of Mass, the priest asked we were all sitting, and he asked for those who have served to stand up, and we got the opportunity to pray for them. And it was a really powerful moment. And every year, the more I really think about, our country and how we came to be. I just grow in deeper respect and appreciation for the freedoms that we have here, unlike many other countries in the world. We are so blessed, but it's not at the expense of lives lost, and some lives lost too early. And so please take a moment of silence or otherwise skip through this part. But I'm just going to take a moment of silence to uh, think of and respect those that have served for our country and sacrificed their life for us. Thank you so much for that. I try not to skate past each of these holidays. Um, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Connecting with the importance of the days, the significance of the day feels really important. Thank you. Okay, getting into the second pillar, mind body connection. I'll share with you a personal story. I have this nasty disease that I live with, and it's called ulcerative colitis. It is the vein of my existence, but I try to work with my body with this disease rather than against it, rather than fighting it. And I'll tell you why. When I get stressed, any sort of stress in my personal life, professional life, any sort of stress, I have to go to the bathroom like immediately. And yes, there's like a threshold of stress that I can tolerate before having to go to the bathroom. And sometimes there is just no reason that I can consciously think of um, as to why I have an event I need to go to the bathroom. But I have that urgency. It comes on so strong when I'm stressed. And so I joke and I say, oh my gosh, when I'm stressed, the world knows it. I'm envious of other people that can be stressed and not have to show it like I have. Because moments where I'm stressed, I'm just like in the bathroom. I've got to run. I've got to get there. And it's because like there is research, strong research that really suggests that that stress increases hormones, that increase inflammation in my colon, that increase mucus production, that lead to me having that urgency to go to the bathroom. That's what I mean by mind body connection. That is like a great example of like my body, my mentality, my mental state. I'm feeling stressed in my brain, but I'm having this impact in my body that now I've got to react to it, right? My body is having a response to what is happening in my mind as a result of stress. So our mind and our body are connected. This is proven through research. Our thinking mind connects to our feeling body. And so you might be thinking, duh, Alicia, like we're human, like our neck connects our mind to our body. But like we're thinking up here, and oftentimes we can neglect the body. This leads to a lot of disconnection with the body. When you are in like a fight, flight, or freeze state, this would be like a parasympathetic response. Like in the last kind of like heated conversation that you had with your partner or with a friend or with your parents, the last kind of state where you felt like victimized or angry or sad, like you felt like your heart was kind of like racing a bit and you didn't really respond to the situation, but rather you reacted to a situation. The last time that you were in your car and you had to like slam your foot on the brake, you just reacted, right? That is yourself being in a parasympathetic state. Your nervous system detects a threat and puts you in that state of response. It perceives a threat or perceives a trigger, and you have like built-in mechanisms that have developed itself over a millennia that say that you have to react to the situation right now in that state to protect yourself, to protect your body. Your nervous system kicks in and causes these reactions. At that moment, you are disconnected from your body. Your nervous system is taken over. Your emotions are leading the way, and are causing this reaction. Again, whether it be fight, flight, or freeze, this parasympathetic response. Anger, feeling victimized, feeling in conversation, it's getting heated. In the body, this can feel like your heart is racing a little bit more, your thoughts are racing a little bit more. Or you might feel like you're completely paralyzed, like you're having someone kind of offer you all that energy and you're feeling a lot of things in your body, but on the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. It's kind of like you're frozen. You don't have like control over your body in that moment. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but that's a very like activated state. Your nervous system is doing what it feels like it needs to do to protect yourself in that moment from a trigger. So you either fight, flight, or freeze. That's it. And so that's a state where to protect yourself, your body disconnects your mind from your body, kind of takes over. In contrast, when you're in a connected state, it's kind of like where you and I might be right now. I feel really connected right now. I'm able to rationalize my thoughts, articulate them with you. I'm breathing pretty easily. I'm able to feel grounded in the state that I'm in. I can think rationally. I can think about my emotions. I can contemplate the universe. Here I am in a very like grounded state. This is very a present state. This is where I'm able to act like in alignment with how I want to show up in this state. That's a very connected state. The nervous system is relaxed. It's not sensing triggers. It's not perceiving things from the outside environment that could be a threat. It's saying, right now, we're safe as we are right now. We can relax. We can show up. And we're in one of those states or the other. We're in the state of connection where we're feeling like, oh, I can be myself here. I can show up as I want to here. I can make the right decisions that I want to with food and how I want to show up in my body here. I ask my clients before I meet with them. I ask before a session if they could take a moment to collect themselves to get to a grounded state. Taking a few deep breaths can help with this. Engaging in some movement that feels nurturing to the body. Eating can be a way to get us into a grounded state when it feels very intentional and it feels very present. When we're able to do that, while we can get back to a grounded state. Music, beautiful. Music can help us get to a grounded state as well. So taking a moment to center ourselves that way. When we do that, we have better conversation. If you actually go back into the archives of the Kitchen Table podcast, you'll see that I am in a more activated state in my initial episodes. You'll see that like my nervous system was kind of like, woo, a little bit flighty. I was a little bit more talkative, a little bit faster, a little bit like I was a little bit higher on my window of tolerance. That's something that we'll talk more about in the program. But the window of tolerance is a framework that we can use to visualize maybe how we're reacting or responding to situations. And so if you go back to those earlier episodes, you'll see that like I maybe was a little nervous. I maybe talked a little bit faster. My heart was maybe racing a little bit more. I was new at this. I'm still new at this. I still get a little bit, whoa, we're recording. Yikes. But after practice time and repetition and really leveraging embodiment practices before I show up with you here for the show, I can feel more connected. So I can know that the words will flow through me in a way that makes sense, that the way that I feel is true, that is how I want to connect with you here on the show. And maybe even you find yourself as a response to me being in a grounded state, maybe your nervous system can relax. Maybe you feel like you can settle in to this conversation. The kitchen table is a place where when we're in our window of tolerance, we can share our thoughts and our feelings and stories and talk about real life experiences, right? Like when we do that, when we are within our window of tolerance, when we are connected with our mind and our body, and we are grounded, we are calm, we are present, that's where we can feel like there is a sense of openness. Vulnerability gets easier. There's an element of safety here. That's when I talk about holding space for other people. It's like, oh, come on in. I can hold your emotions, right? I can hold your past experiences. Whatever you have to say here, I've created this safe space, this safe container where you can come in and feel held in your experience, not judged, not criticized, not fixed by me. None of that. You just come in here and we can have a conversation. That's why I named this podcast The Kitchen Table, because to me, that is the most grounding place in my house and throughout my life. Sorry, my sniffles. And so that is when we are in a very connected state. Our mind and our body are connected. We are present, we are grounded, we are open to receive from somebody else, and we are able to give more of ourselves in an authentic way that feels true to us. Isn't that so beautiful? Well, equally as beautiful as that is when we can understand why we react when we are in a more activated state, right? So when I get in heated conversations with my husband and I take a moment afterwards when I've come from that activated state into my grounded state, I can recognize, oh my gosh, I see why I reacted that way. This was the thing that quote unquote set me off, brought me into my hyper aroused, activated state. This is why I reacted this way. The next time, I am going to take a few deep breaths. I'm going to remove myself from the trigger. I'm going to protect myself and my nervous system from that trigger so that I can re enter that environment with more presence, with more openness, with more grace, hopefully, to be able to say the things I want to say, to act the way that I want to act, right? To be more of myself despite this trigger. But sometimes we have to remove ourselves. We have to get back to a grounded state before we're able to maybe have that conversation or do that thing or whatever it is. We can understand our bodies and ourselves so much more when we can have empathy for the times where we've reacted rather than responded. We can understand why our nervous system went into protect mode and we disconnected ourselves from our mind and our body. We were in a disconnected state. Wow, we can understand ourselves so much better. And we can have compassion for ourselves even when we don't act in a way that we want to, even though we're not proud of how we showed up in that moment. We can have a greater understanding for how our body was responding to the conversation without maybe even our mind's consent, right? This is like not thinking before we talk. I'm notorious for that. So it's like, how can we get back into a grounded state so we can say what we want to say, articulate how we feel in a meaningful way and have openness for each other again. That means we're both in the window of tolerance. And so this is how I have conversations with Tyler now of like, well, we're both pretty activated. Let's re-enter this later. Press pause. Or I'm going to take a few deep breaths. You go in your room or you go in the bedroom and I'll be in the living room and we'll just take a moment and then we'll reconvene and hash this out once we both kind of like cool it just a little bit so we can re-enter this. It's not always effective. It's not always effective to do that. But I use our relationship with other people, like my relationship with my husband, to describe the same relationship that our mind has with our body. And so it's like, how can we understand our body's reactions and responses more so we can understand how we can show up more authentically in our life? This is the difference between being in a disembodied state. This is all the worries, the fears, the anxieties, the frustrations. That is all disembodied. This is all like the headspin of the mind. The mind is taken over and it affects the body. But when we're in a connected state, we can feel into the body and give it what it needs while using our brain's rationality. That is the synergy between the mind and the body. All of the logic, all of the reasoning, all of the rationale, that all exists in the mind. We have to transfer information from the mind to the body and from the body to the mind. That is what I mean by strengthening our mind-body connection. This gives our nervous system time to grow and how it reacts and responds to situations. When we learn to regulate the nervous system, we show up more authentically as how we want to show up truly in the world. We become better people. And when we talk about our relationships with food and body. Oftentimes, we are disconnected with food, like in a binge. Like, say that we've restricted food so much, we find ourselves in a binge. Oftentimes, it's described as like this out of body experience, and it's never satisfying enough. That is a great example of a disconnection between the mind and the body. In no way is there the ability during a binge to connect with the body and feel sensations like hunger and fullness. No, there's like this void of like, it will never be enough. There's never enough food to fill what I'm needing to fill right now. Oftentimes, binging, as we talk about all the time on the show, is a result of restriction. And oftentimes, it's like the neglecting then through the restriction of the body's needs, that the body feels like this food is how its needs are going to be met, but the mind and the body are so disconnected in the experience that no there's no connection between the mind and the body, nor a connection with food throughout a binge. It's just kind of happening, a very disconnected state. So those are a few examples of feeling disconnected, right? Arguments, sometimes with food. We can also feel disconnected, like in a different way, when we feel like we just want to sleep a lot. We just kind of want to disconnect from reality and just like in the middle of the day, we're not even tired, we just want to sleep. I remember I had a few like, breakups in high school where I got super emotional and for good reason. I, felt rejection, felt all of these things, whatever. And I would just want to sleep. And yeah, that's another like nervous system response for protection as well. So that's a disembodied state, wanting to just like feeling the body feels this lethargy as a result of like the mind's overwhelm, and it disconnects us from reality. Wow, that's a disconnected state. And it's just like being in an activated state. And so getting back to a grounded state where we can show up, that's where we want to be when we are healing our relationship with food and body. This is where we can have conversations like, oh my gosh, I'm able to recognize my thoughts. I'm able to recognize what thoughts are true and what thoughts are not true about myself and my body. So it's like, we have this negative body thought. When we're in a grounded state, we're maybe better able to like observe that thought and ask ourselves that question. Ask ourselves that question. Am I really ugly? We have this thought of like, oh, my body is so ugly. We're able to, oh, interesting, pulling that thought out for a second. Am I really ugly? Oh, okay. Untrue. Next. We're able to be like an observer of our thoughts because we're so grounded in the moment. We can engage in more of these practices that can feel supportive to the body. When we're in a grounded state, we're actually able to have gratitude and appreciation for our body and the food that we have and all of these other things as well. That only happens in a grounded state. We forget about love and joy and gratitude and all of these other things when we're in activated states. So coming back to that grounded state, we can also help build a more positive body image because we're able to connect with our mind and our body enough to have an appreciation for it, to be able to respect and honor it. And so I hope that this conversation, and we could talk about this for hours, okay? But I hope that this conversation is lending some insight into like, wow, if we could strengthen that mind-body connection by learning how to cope with triggers, we'll be better able to show up more authentically in life because we'll be able to show up how we want to more and understand the times where we reacted where we weren't really proud of how we showed up. We can even have compassion for ourselves during those times too. We can even have compassion for if we entered into a binging episode, like where we absolutely felt like that disconnected state, overeating food, not feeling like, any amount of it would satisfy us. We can even look at that after the fact, after we got into a grounded state. We can have empathy for that person that was suffering that binge, that felt really disconnected. And we can say, oh my gosh, I completely understand why she did that. I can completely understand. Here was the situation. Wow, I get it. How can I better honor my body next time? How can I strengthen my mind-body connection so I can have more compassion for myself and get my needs met? Find some gratitude for my body, feel more connected to my body, connected with food. see how that transforms our relationship with food. I mean, that is like the core essence of embodied eating is how can we build that strength and connection with our mind and our body so we can feel more present and connected with the food that we're eating. And we can feel more connected after we eat. And we say, how did that food make our body feel? A really important question, right? How is my energy? Do I need sleep? What would sound good to me right now? Asking those questions all comes from a very embodied state. And so that's what we do when we talk about mind body harmony and strengthening that mind body connection. And I'm going to have Casey Berglund, a mentor for me and a coach. I've taken her Let Your Body Lead professional certification program. She's been on the podcast twice. She's going to come on a third time. I could not be more excited to have her back on the show. She's going to talk more about strengthening this mind body connection. And I couldn't be more excited to have her on. So keep this podcast on the top of your Spotify so that you do not miss any episode, and especially that episode with Casey Berglund coming up. She's at Worthy and Well on Instagram if you want to kind of get a prelude into what she's all about. She's marvelous, and she is like the queen at mind-body connection stuff. So I'm so excited to have her back on and to have her be a part of the workshop. She's going to take a full 90 minutes to talk about this connection between mind and body in this workshop, and you will be so mind blown with her wisdom. Every time I get to be with Casey and be in her presence, I am just like brought into this grounded state where it's just like, okay, I think together we can put the tools together to conquer the world now. Okay. I think we got this to conquer the world, to have more peace and love and joy and all of the things, I just feel so empowered and inspired by her because I feel it within myself. And that is such a gift that she brings. I can't talk more highly about Casey. She's just wonderful. I'm really excited to have her be a part of this program. Really excited to have her back on the workshop. So stay tuned. Hit that little subscribe button on the show so you don't miss an episode. You're not going to want to miss one, truly. Every Monday, I'm going to be here talking about the different pillars of the workshop, the program that's launching June 20th. I'm going to give you the pillars in the start. Embodied eating, we already talked about it. Mind-body harmony. Next is conscious cooking. Then authentic style, talking about clothes. Right now we're talking about summer clothes. Things are, different in our wardrobe this time of the year, maybe more revealing, maybe more vulnerable. We're talking about that and all the triggers that come up with that. And lastly, intuitive living, because when we start cooking differently, clothing ourselves differently, as we heal our relationship with food and body, guess what? We want to remove the clutter from our lives. We want to start living more expansively, more differently, and finding peace also despite all of the chaos in our life. So that is the last pillar, intuitive living. Talking about organization in our homes, in our kitchens, in our closets, finding more peace in our homes so that we can feel more peace in our bodies. Can't wait to talk more about these pillars with you. Can't wait to have you sign up for the program in June. If you want to secure your spot, find me at AliciaBrown_AB on Instagram. I would be so excited to connect with you to see if you're a good fit for the workshop. I'm taking about 15 participants, so spots are limited. You can secure your spot now, and I will nurture you up until the start of the program. I will give you materials and resources so you can feel supported right when you sign on until the workshop launches June 20th. So reach out to me, secure your spot. And I would be so excited to connect with you. And I'm really excited for you, regardless, to tune in every Monday and Thursday here at the kitchen table to learn more about these pillars, to learn more about healing our relationships with food and body and beyond. Enjoy the rest of the day. I wish you to find peace with food this weekend and in yourself. I wish for you to be in a grounded state as much as possible this weekend so you can fully soak in and enjoy this time off, for you to really think about the small things in life as you maybe slow down a little bit, have more appreciation for yourself and your body and your food and those who love you and beyond. So thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I enjoy being with you every Monday and Thursday here at the kitchen table. And I look forward to seeing you on Thursday for our next episode. Have a great holiday. Take care.